Tyler Williams was charged with 2 felonies in federal court earlier this month after knocking a handcuffed man unconscious in Hendry County.
Wink News investigative reporter Peter Fleischer details Williams' prior issues in Fort Myers and then explores how he was given another chance to get a badge.
That slam got former Hendry County Sheriff's Deputy Tyler Williams fired. It got him 2 federal charges worth up to 30 years in federal prison combined. But how did Williams get that job in Hendry County, with a law enforcement past littered with disciplinary issues and stiff punishments? This body camera footage is from a traffic stop that Williams conducted while on duty with the Fort Myers Police Department in January 2020. Williams had been with FMPD for more than 3 years at that point. But this incident led to the first mark on his file. An internal affairs investigation revealed Williams found drugs, syringes, and a 3-year-old child in this car with the child's mother driving, but failed to report his findings or conduct a proper investigation. Less than a month after the stop, the same woman blacked out behind the wheel. The same child was inside and died in the crash. Williams was arrested for failing to report the information, though criminal charges were later dropped. He was then recommended for termination at FMPD, facing 4 counts of discipline. But after the police union fought on his behalf, his punishment was converted to less than 5 months unpaid suspension. However, the behavioral issues were just beginning. Paperwork shows he resumed working for FMPD on July 12, 2021. But another internal affairs investigation, launched less than 3 months later, found Williams displayed a pattern of reckless driving between September 1st, 2021 and December 15th, 2021. A third investigation in November 2021 claims Williams responded to a domestic violence call and committed 6 policy violations, including falsely reporting that his body camera died, failure to conduct a preliminary investigation, and failure to notify a supervisor of a domestic violence incident. In the next 4 months, while Internal Affairs looked into his actions at that DV scene, Williams faced 2 more Internal Affairs investigations, one for tampering with equipment and another for threatening a citizen with a metal jack handle while off duty. In total, he received 38 disciplinary actions at FMPD after he was reinstated. All of them were sustained, meaning the chief of police signed off on his recommended punishment. Williams' file shows he resigned in lieu of termination while his 3 final investigations were still ongoing. Paperwork shows he was hired 1 month later at the Hendry County Sheriff's Office. Barely 1 year into his tenure at Hendry County, officials say Tyler Williams knocked out this handcuffed man. But how did the Hendry County Sheriff's Office look past his controversial past? What work did his new employer do or not do to check his background? I requested an interview with Sheriff Whitten and Tyler Williams for this story. Neither responded. The sheriff did defend his department in a press conference, and I'll have more on that in part 2 of our story. Back to you.
Former Fort Myers police officer Tyler Williams faced more than 40 counts of discipline during his time there, and yet was hired by the Hendry County Sheriff's Office.
Wink News investigative reporter Peter Fleischer discovered incorrect information during the hiring process and searches for answers as to how Williams got that job.
The incident that ended Tyler Williams' time at the Hendry County Sheriff's Office and led to 2 felony charges against him is explosive. But the issues and outright false information started quietly, almost immediately during Tyler Williams' time with the Hendry County Sheriff's Office. His application, dated April 27, 2022, was filed just 6 days after he resigned in lieu of termination at the Fort Myers Police Department. Williams was the subject of 4 separate internal affairs investigations in his last year with FMPD. In total, Williams faced more than 40 disciplinary actions during his time at FMPD before he resigned, including one case where he didn't properly investigate a traffic stop. He found drugs in a vehicle and near a young child who was not properly restrained. That child died in a crash less than a month later. But none of that comes up in his application with Hendry County. When asked why he left FMPD, Williams wrote irreconcilable differences. He later expands, writing, resigned from FMPD after many internal affairs investigations were filed over a period of time to hold me back from career advancement. No mention of Williams' rampant speeding and traffic violations, all without properly engaging his emergency equipment or considering public safety. No info about the domestic violence call he failed to report or notify a supervisor about, during which he falsely reported his body camera dying. And not a word about his last incident at FMPD, in which he showed up at a business while off duty and threatened the owner with a metal jack handle. Henry County Sheriff Steve Whitten signed off on Williams' hiring in May 2022, just 14 months before officials say Williams knocked out a handcuffed suspect cold.
When I watched the body camera, I was shocked and I was appalled.
Whitten condemned Williams' actions in a press conference in early April, after his former deputy was charged with unreasonable use of force and falsifying of records.
And what I saw on this body camera, it violated the trust of our community. And that trust is so sacred, and we work very hard to keep that trust between our deputies and our community of Hendry County.
But where was HCSO's background research? There's no evidence that Whitten was aware of Williams' past when he made the hire. The sheriff declined my interview request for this story, but I did ask about the process of hiring Williams at that press conference.
I've seen complaints that go in files. There's internal affairs investigations. Some are sustained, and we look at those. We don't like to pick those up.
But Williams did have IA investigations, several of them.
But if it's a complaint, depending on what it is, and it's absolutely unsustained or proven to be untrue, then we have no problem picking them up.
I filed the records request with FMPD, looking for any proof that Whitten and HCSO looked into Williams' background. Records show a Hendry County sergeant requested copies of all records related to Williams, but there's no date on the request letter, and while it does have Whitten's letterhead on it, his signature is not. Was Whitten aware of Williams' past? His answer to me when I asked about the hire raises questions.
It's my understanding that through the backgrounds that the allegations were overturned from the firing, which is the reason why we picked him up. I just hope that the community knows that we will still strive to keep that trust within our community.
When our crew spoke with Williams outside his latest court hearing, he had no comment on this case. I've also reached out to Williams by phone, but he hasn't responded. His next court date is set for May 13th. Back to you.
Peter, thank you. Wink News has also requested the date that HCSO filed their request for Williams' background file, along with all materials that FMPD sent to Hendry County. We'll let you know what we find. We'll be right back.